Hey, what is up YouTube? This is the Mermail Master coming at you guys from the Team Time Riders YouTube channel, and I wanted to welcome you guys back for an in-depth look at my trap lineup and how I summon Vennominaga, Deity of Poisonous Snakes, so consistently. I did go over it a little bit in my deck profile, but I wanted to take more time to showcase a couple of the different plays that you guys can do in this deck to help you out in summoning Vennominaga, Deity of Poisonous Snakes consistently, easily, and with a good amount of attack power on most games. So, as I demonstrated in my original deck profile, the lineup of the trap is all about the combos and it's all about the consistency. You're going to want to assemble a 4-step combo that has to do with Venominaga King of Poisonous Snakes. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, Venominaga King of Poisonous Snakes can't special summon himself by himself. He can't do anything, really, by himself. He's an old GX monster, so you got to do all the heavy lifting for him. What that means is that in order to accurately trigger your Rise of the Snake Deity, a Venominaga King of Poisonous Snakes must be destroyed by a card effect on your side of the field in some kind of way that it does not miss timing, and then you can trigger this trap card to special summon Vennominaga Deity of Poisonous Snakes out of your deck. So, how do you go about doing that? Well, with Vennominaga King of Poisonous Snakes being the way that he is, you're going to want to get him to the graveyard consistently. Now, a lot of people like to use Snake Rain because Snake Rain is a great way to get him to the graveyard. But there really was, until very recently, no consistent way to get Vennominaga to the graveyard. Well, enter in Peaceful Burial. Now, Peaceful Burial was a card that I demonstrated in one of my previous deck profiles as something new that I actually discovered. The reason I love Peaceful Burial is because it's a trap card. And with it being a trap card, that allows it to be searchable by both Lilith, Lady of Lament, and your trap trick. Now, Peaceful Burial is kind of like a hard once per turn Foolish Burial for any snake. You can have all the different combo pieces up to summon Vennominaga, but if you don't have a Vennominaga in your graveyard, it doesn't work out. Peaceful Burial provides a more consistent way than Foolish Burial to get your Vennominaga to the graveyard in order to use its effect. So I actually prefer, in a deck as consistent as this, 2 Peaceful Burial that I can search over just 1 Foolish Burial. And as I mentioned, you only really need to resolve this 1 time. And with 2 Peaceful Burial, you get 1 banished if you search it off of the trap trick. The next cards, of course, are revival cards. And I really wanted to make sure that you are reviving your snake consistently. And the most consistent revival card in the game is the searchable Back to the Front. And when using Back to the Front, even though the monster comes to the field in defense mode, you really don't have to worry too much about that because Back to the Front is mostly going to trigger during your opponent's turn, and you're going to do a lot of your special summoning during your opponent's turn, which of course, when you're playing some kind of Protect the Castle deck similar to Boojins or to Gravekeepers or whatever, that allows you to access your Pot of Dualities and Card of Demises on your turn while still having the special summon capability of something that would work on your opponent's turn. So Back to the Front gets the card back, and at 2, as I said, you only need to resolve it 1 time. Moving on is your Revival and Destruction. Of course, we have Limit Reverse. Limit Reverse serves 2 roles in this deck. It revives a monster and it destroys the monster. Pretty much, it can only revive 2 things in the deck, but you're going to most likely want to just use it on King. And the reason why this is so important is because this turns summoning Vennominaga from a 6-card combo into a 5-card combo. And so that's very, very important, especially now with the lack of Card of Demise. But even during the time when Card of Demise was a thing, at 3, this card was very important because you can trigger this during your opponent's end phase, get Vennominaga out, and then if you have a way to get to Vennominaga, or Rise of the Snake Deity, such as having a trap trick set, this card instantly allows you to access that because when you switch the monster to defense mode, it's automatically destroyed. And that destruction is something that will be able to trigger Rise of the Snake Deity's effect and allow you to summon Vennominaga to the field. Similar destruction effects, of course, are Rise of the Snake Deity and Offering to the Snake Deity and Torrential Tribute. Now, I was very kind of hesitant to run Offering to the Snake Deity for a very long time, so it was out of the last profile, but the reason I decided to put it back in here was because I was having a lot of trouble with back row destruction, and back row and hand traps and all sorts of things like that can really, really screw up this deck's day. It is a deck that is kind of a glass cannon until you get your big monster out. So you want to make sure that you're kind of getting rid of your opponent's back row or different cards that they could use to hurt you for a variety of different reasons. And in one of the profiles, I actually ended up taking the Torrentials out. But the reason that they're in here is because this deck for a little bit is kind of like playing solitaire with yourself. So the idea behind it is each trap card in here is not to stop your opponent. It's to just further and continue your combo plays. However, it was important for me in choosing trap cards that not only did that, but that also had the side effect of somehow also hurting your opponent. So the idea behind that is like, okay, well, I need to destroy my snake anyway, so I might as well take out my opponent's monsters, or I might as well take out some of my opponent's spell or traps while I'm destroying my big snake. So it does help out in that respect. Unfortunately, though, if your opponent triggers or chains an effect to the destruction effect, since it's not the last thing to resolve, unfortunately, your Rise of the Snake Deity cannot activate. But usually, in most types of situations, the switch in combo from a torrential or an offering activation will be enough to offset the loss and advantage you have from missing the timing on the activation of your Rise of the Snake Deity. Now, Rise of the Snake Deity has its timing very, very important because it can only get itself from the hand or the deck, Big Snake. So if you're milling Big Snake to the graveyard off of card or demise or sending it in other ways, you can't access Big Snake from your graveyard. So to complement Rise, of course, I wanted to have a way that you could easily access it. And of course, with the Trap Trick engine in here at 3, if you have a Trap Trick set and a Limit Reverse set, that equals 1 Vennominaga, Deity of Poisonous Snakes, because you can trigger Trap Trick during that end phase and get the Rise of the Snake Deity out of your deck, and since you only run the Rise of the Snake Deity at 2 and you only need to resolve it one time, you pretty much guarantee yourself to be able to get it if you need it. So now, the final trap cards that I have in here in the deck for the 2-ofs are the Transmigration Prophecy. And I went into a little bit of detail with this in the last, in the profile that I did, but Transmigration Prophecy I think is super, super good because it does not target just monsters, it targets cards. Now, I tested a lot of different types of cards. I've tested Pot of Avarice, I tested, Jar of Avarice, and I tested I think, what was it? Pot of Dichotomy and a couple of other different cards to shuffle things back. But this ended up being the best thing because not only is it a searchable normal trap off a Trap Trick, but it can shuffle back monsters and cards. So, for instance, if I want to get like Card of Demises or specific cards back to my deck, I can do it with this card. In addition, since it also affects your opponent, you can shuffle back some of their things that they need. If they're going to search something back from their hand or they target something with Monster Reborn or some kind of revival effect, you can use Transmigration Prophecy and shuffle your Phenomenon or your Vennominaga and one of their things back to the deck. So it has extra added benefit in that respect as well, which is really, really cool. So now, as you guys know, all of these traps are in here at 2. The reason being because you only need to resolve each of them once, as I mentioned. But this is where this engine shines, is that the only trap card in here at 3 is Trap Trick. And you use your Lilith Lady of Lament to guarantee that if you don't search a Trap Trick, you will always draw one. So your combo play is Lilith into Trap Trick into any one of the traps in this deck, except, of course, for the continuous trap card. But this pretty much makes any piece of your combo searchable. So what you're using is Lilith Lady of Lament to get into Trap Trick or guaranteed Trap Trick, hopefully on the first turn. So this is like 5 Trap Tricks, I guess. And if you can't 100% search Trap Trick on turn 1, what that definitely means is that you've drawn into Trap Trick on turn 1, which is even better. If you have a Lilith and a Trap Trick, the way that you can do it is that you have Trap Trick and it can be used to search any card in the deck. So like even if you draw Lilith and Trap Trick on the first turn, Trap Trick still actually works well in your favor, because let's say you want to grab Foolish Burial Goods or you want to grab a Back to the Front, right? Well, what you can do is you can search 2 Trap Trick and 1 Back to the Front. You're either going to get to the Back to the Front, or you're going to get to the Trap Trick, which you can then trigger on your opponent's turn to guarantee that you get to the Back to the Front. So you're always getting to the piece of the combo that you need at that particular moment. And of course, as you guys know, takes the other one out of the deck, so you don't really have to worry about it from that point onward. Lilith is really, really good in this situation because it can also be revived with Back to the Front. And with, you know, that revival effect, its 2,000 attack power can come in quite useful in a variety of different situations. But most likely you would use it if you had multiple copies of Back to the Front or multiple revival trap cards back there. Lilith can then be revived and triggered by either triggering itself, or you can actually trigger it by tributing either 1 copy of your Venominaga or 1 copy of Venoms Serpent as their other dark monsters that that you have that you can trigger. You can trigger these on, you know, either your turn or your opponent's turn, and then have another play with Lilith during your opponent's turn, since it can activate once per turn during either player's turn, meaning that you can sacrifice like a errant Venoms Serpent that just happens to be on the field, which does, of course, sometimes happen if you don't really have anything to revive for it. Get the piece that you need with your Lilith, you know, search a Trap Trick and then search, you know, something else from your deck, and then automatically be able to most likely have the 3-card combo set in your back row by your turn to be able to summon Vennominaga. So that is it for the traps, and you know, and sort of showcasing the style of how they work to summon Vennominaga. Now, moving on to some of these spells, since this is not really one of those typical kinds of things, and you know, usually the spells are for, you know, that's where your combos and stuff are, is your monsters and your spells, but your traps are where your combos are, your spells are where you boost your consistency. Of course, as you guys know, Pot of Duality allows you to dig into whatever pieces of traps that you want. Snake Rain is the best. The only problem is it's unsearchable, but I'm running it in here at 3 because I want to run it to its fullest extent before Konami inevitably bans it, because this is a card that is just waiting to be abused. And Snake Rain is very, very good because, you know, you can resolve it like the way that the deck is set up, and with the number of reptiles in this, you probably want to resolve this card 2 times per duel. But this is one of the cards that is essential to your Vennominaga play. And I'm going to go over your Vennominaga combo play in just a little bit. But basically with Snake Rain, what you want to do with this card is mill every reptile in your deck but Vennominaga to the graveyard. Vennominaga, like in the best kind of scenario, Vennominaga is the only monster left in your deck because it has to be there. And Snake Rain resolving twice will allow you to do that. Pot of Duality, of course, allows you to choose the spells, and it also allows you to choose the traps. But the most important card in here for the longest time, guys, and irreplaceable right now, is Card of Demise. And Card of Demise is... I wanna ask you guys to see if there's any kind of card that you think that can help take the place of it. And I've heard all of the different options, like Into the Void and Pot of Extravagance, and you know, I just haven't had as much luck because Card of Demise just did so much for this deck. First and foremost, of course, the fact that it allows you to draw. But as you draw into your cards, you know, the worst case, you know, if you have a Snake Rain, for instance, you can activate Snake Rain, mill 4 reptiles from your deck. That automatically increases the consistency that you'll be drawing spells and traps rather than reptiles. In the worst case scenario is you draw 3 more reptiles, you just mill them to the graveyard during the end phase where you'd rather have them than on the field. But the really key thing about Card of Demise is that as the duel goes on and as you keep milling things from your deck, Card of Demise is a card that gets better because, you know, as you get your reptiles to your graveyard, Card of Demise's draws get more consistent. And as you start cycling out all of your different one-of traps, like your Rise of the Snake Deity, once it resolves itself once, you've pretty much removed all copies from your deck, so you don't have any more of them in there. Card of Demise will just consistently draw you, your torrentials and your reborn spell trap cards and different things like that that will just serve to further increase the consistency of putting pressure on your opponent. Like, your deck runs buttery smooth once Vennominaga hits the board, pretty much. And Card of Demise is a major, major piece in that combo play. So guys, that's pretty much what Card of Demise does. And, the thing is, the reason why I have Card of Demise in here is because it's a consistency booster. And the combo to summon a strong Vennominaga Deity of Poisonous Snakes pretty much requires 6 different types of cards. So the more cards you're drawing off of Card of Demise on your first turn, the better the chance will be that you could get into all 6 of those different types of cards to be able to get the combo off on turn 2, which is why a Card of Demise going to 1 just hurts so much. So I'm going to showcase to you guys finally the 6-card combo to summon Vennominaga Deity of Poisonous Snakes. So requires these cards. Of course, we have our Phenomenon and our Vennominaga over here. But let's see. Technically, if you have these cards, like, this will be the summon of the card. So I guess this right here, and then if you want to also put like a Monster Reborn or something like that, this is technically your combo to summon it with pretty high degree of consistency. And the combo, I guess, I mentioned 6 cards, but, for instance, you've got the Foolish Burial here. If you've already got a Snake Rain, this could be used as like the 1 card that you discard off of this. But basically with this combo, what you have to do is you Foolish Burial, you send 4 reptiles to your graveyard. I usually like to make them the 3 kings and the boa, so that any reptiles you draw after that point are not just bricks in your hand, because reptiles will brick in your hand. So now that you've got 4 snakes in your graveyard, what you do is you set these 3 cards to the field. Once your opponent's turn triggers around, I would recommend, either waiting or whatever you're going to do in triggering this card right here back to the front to special summon Phenomenon to the field. And I usually like to do this during the standby phase, even if my opponent doesn't have anything for me to destroy. And the simple reason for this being that because your trap card missed timing, or because it misses timing, it's going to be tougher for you to really get off your plays. You then activate Torrential Tribute, if you were able to trigger, if your opponent, you know what your opponent's deck is playing, and they can destroy something, trigger, back to the front. Torrential goes to the graveyard, and of course you activate your Rise of the Snake Deity to special summon Vennominaga from your hand or deck. And that's pretty much the gist of the play. And as you guys know, your combo pieces will draw you into all of the different stuff that you need for that. So guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Following after this, I'm going to do a hard shuffle and hand tutorial drawing video where I'm going to take you through the consistency of this deck without making any cuts on the video, just so you guys can see how the deck runs, how the deck plays, or how it was meant to play. And if you've got any suggestions on how we can improve it, post the Card of Demise going to one ban list. I would love to hear it. But guys, thanks so much for getting to the end of this combo video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to give a like and rate, comment, subscribe to the Team Time Riders YouTube channel. But until next time, this has been the Mermail Master, signing out. See you.